Have you ever joined a Gmod server, loaded in, and just seen this at spawn? Even if you haven't actually played the game, chances are you've stumbled upon videos that highlight all of these, we'll call them players, that sit in the spawn of Gmod servers. And no, they're not little Johnny who went to go eat his Vegemite on toast for breakfast and is coming back to set up his gun shop. These accounts sitting in spawn are the result of overlooked and scummy server practices done by not just one or two of your favorite Gmod servers, but every single one of the top servers. The practice is having multiple accounts sitting idle in order to boost server population. This brings these popular servers higher in the server browser and misleads players into thinking that a server must be better due to their higher player counts. 29 accounts out of the 79 player pop in this server list, fourth out of the total players. Take away all of these AFK accounts, they'd be right down here below all these servers. Just all these AFK accounts, man, there's so many of them. Not only does this create a false representation of what a server truly is, but it's just such a manipulative practice for new and existing players to just join a server only to find that half the population isn't actually playing on the server. And this isn't some groundbreaking discovery I found either. This has been going on for years in the Garry's mod community, but it's just been largely accepted by players and not much has really been said about it. The only at least public post that I found was from an old Reddit post 5 years ago, which just highlighted how many of these accounts there were and asking why players are just accepting it. But it's just been brushed off as a common practice that these popular servers do. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you've at least experienced joining a server and asking yourself where everyone actually is. Now, there's two ways that servers can physically spoof their player account, and that's by having AFK bots that sit on their server or incentivizing players with little rewards to keep their computers on. Now, bots are actually less common practice on RP servers these days and are probably more of the scummier side of equally shitty practices. But with the updated guidelines of the Gmod operator forms that now states do not fake server information, this mostly means player count, but nevertheless there's still plenty of servers that still decide to engage with this. I mean, there's a couple on this that you can kind of just spot out, like Atomic Lover 2374932, theme profile 1 game, their name is Pie and Cake 123. I mean, there's still a chance that this is a real account, but like, come on. Lucky for us, Gmod servers are ran on Lua coding that I've got a hold of, and through scanning through all of the server's code, you can sometimes find little remnants that show these shady practices. Like this little file I found on one particular server from a deleted add-on. The Lua file is discreetly called bots, very discreet on this one, boys, that would allow management to add bots that would occupy slots. I wonder why they'd need to do that. And this is similar to a method that I'll be showing later that contributes to the server browser count, so a little suspicious. To show how easy it is for servers to do this, especially under the radar similar to that code, a fella from the Patreon who owns Oceanic RP volunteered his own dedicated server, and by altering just a single line of code, you can see that we can now entirely spoof the player count under the guise of bots, which looks kinda familiar. And by doing it this way, it allows you to hide completely from the in-game player list. So while the server browser shows a high player count, you can't actually identify these bots while you're playing. So I can't confirm for sure that this is definitely what the server was using the script for, since another chunk of the files is missing, but I don't think it's too far of a stretch to guess that servers are still engaging in these practices, especially when you can see all the top servers encouraging users to juice up their player count, but I'll let you guys decide that for yourself. And speaking of encouraging players to juice up the player count, this involves servers incentivizing players to go AFK themselves and is the most common method among all the top servers. For a server, it's way easier to convince 9-year-old Johnny to leave his computer on overnight and give his single mother a $9,000 electricity bill than to code or pay for something and risk spoofing with bots. And the worst part about this is not the fact that they do this, it's how well it actually works. AFK 23 hours, AFK 15 hours, 8 hours, AFK 5 hours. It's a popular server, but 20% of their players are all AFK. It's just like, servers offer these little rewards like in-game money, XP, credits, and even just little badges that display their hours, and players will genuinely leave their PC on overnight in order to get these little prizes. And this is something that 99% of the top servers do, and it just creates the most pathetic competition of fake players in order to recruit new members into spending money on their hyperinflated servers. servers. It's not even the players to blame that do this. It's the fact that if they don't do this, they're at a disadvantage to the players that do. It's almost like a different variation of pay to win, but instead it's AFK on our server to win. I found an old archive post from one of these top servers where a player actually brought this up, stating that the entire grift just rubs me the wrong way and makes the server seem cheap and desperate. Players are incentivized to AFK because it makes the numbers look better on a Gmod browser. In the morning, the server averages 30 to 40 players, and that seems like a decent amount until you enter the server only to find out 5 or 6 are actually playing. And it doesn't take a detective to see that 2 years later, this server is practicing this same AFK incentive just after their peak time. More than half the server population is AFK accounts. Some of these accounts, it's so obvious what they've been doing. Like, you'd want to hope Deputy Commissioner Brucey has not spent a year playing this game, but when you got 22 citizens on a server and it's a server with 41 people on, that's more than the population playing. Like, there's more AFK citizens than players. Not only is it just annoying for new players to join a server and be met by an inflated population, but it's just so scummy and deceitful to its own community. The owner's response in this archive post was that, and I'll try to give my best server owner voice here, higher average players, higher rankings, which then translate to more players for you guys to play with. Imagine a server with only 10 people active at all times. Lol, not too fun. More players then translates into more donations for my little tubby pockets. And you know what that translates to? You guessed it, a higher operating budget for us to make improvements, develop the server further, and keep the amazing server that you love. Look at the bigger picture. Just letting you know, I had my finger up that whole time. Like the guy telling everyone we're having an earthquake.
Earthquake. Yep, we're having an earthquake.
So from this, we're looking at the big picture, right? Deceiving new players, exploiting existing players with bullshit incentives, and all the while fucking over other servers who decide not to engage in deceitful practices. Just big picture, man. If a server genuinely does care about their players, which I know I'm talking to a brick wall here because most of them don't and are in it to farm money from children, I don't know why the effort is spent on creating an AFK server base and justifying it as a betterment for the community. It's just such a manipulative relationship between server owners and players, as well as being one of the most fucking annoying things when you log into a server. Man, I sure love joining a server with half the population AFK. Instead of relying on deceiving players, focusing on fostering an actual genuine community and ways to earn new players besides one that's AFK could genuinely benefit these servers so much more than what they're doing right now. And the fact that 99% of these top servers are still doing this is just so pathetic, and I don't know how it's still a genuine problem. The fact that all of these bots and scummy AFK methods are just kind of a part of Gmod now and have been for years just shows how easily that servers get away with practices like this. This is just one of the many scummy tactics that the big Gmod servers use and ultimately just generate more money for the server owner's pocket. And it's just so ingrained in Gmod that no one says anything. And I'm sure server owners are going to justify this with all the reasons stated before and say that it's not up to them whether players are AFK on their servers or any other reason besides actually focusing on bettering a server. And this video is not about someone setting up printers in a base and watching Joe Rogan on YouTube while they're printing money. This is about actual AFK farming and botting. I think we can all agree that this AFK and bot problem has been plaguing Gmod for way too long. If a server owner actually cares about their players like they claim they do, they'll stop using these scummy practices to attract new players and restore at least a bit of integrity to their server. So in case you do care about your players, here's some code I wrote with ChatGPT in 3 minutes on top of your own AFK Lua script that actually kicks someone when they're AFK. Feel free to steal it like most of your add-ons used on your servers, or just stop encouraging them to AFK. But just fix your shit, man.